President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. The floor is again given to the prosecution to continue their questioning of this witness. You may proceed. I notice the defense counsel for inquiry is on his feet. You may proceed. Counsel, good afternoon, Your Honors, Mr. President, colleagues, and everyone in and around the courtroom. I'd like to raise an observation and a request for Your Honors to consider. This morning I observed that the witness in his response made a long answer to each question. As we do not have the principle of objecting twice to the same question, I would like to seek Your Honors to direct the witness to respond only to the limit of the question to be asked to him, so that we can save time. Because every time when the witness finishes his response, the prosecution says that he will ask some more questions regarding to his response. This is just my observation and request, Mr. President. President, thank you, counsel. Regarding the criminal procedure of the Kingdom of Cambodia and the internal rule of the ECCC regarding hearing the testimony of a witness, parties to the proceeding pursuant to the internal rule as well as the code of the criminal procedure have the right to object to the questions being put to a witness by a party. However, you are reminded that the objection that you raise shall be precise and short, and you need to raise whether the question is repetitive or irrelevant to the facts being before us, so that the chamber would have the base to consider and rule on that matter. These are the provisions in the Code of the Criminal Procedure as well as in the internal rules. That is the proceeding of questioning a witness or an expert. And of course the chamber has the discretion to rule on this matter. And we will try our best to administer the proceeding so that it is expeditious and effective. Without allowing any party to delay the proceeding or to make a comment or statement which is irrelevant. The prosecution, you may continue.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the bench. Good afternoon, Mr. Yun Kim. I wanted to turn now to a new subject, and I'd like to ask you whether during the period of democratic Kampuchea, whether you were aware of marriages that were arranged for soldiers.
Answer. Regarding marriage, either in the cooperative or in the military unit. However, I do not know well about this matter in the military unit. Sometimes the military propose to the cooperative requesting, for example, 30 women to be married to soldiers. During such occasion, of course, we would not subjectively decide who should go. We sought permission from the individual woman. In one occasion, at my place, 25 women volunteered to go to get married at Division 920 military base. So, when they volunteered, then we would agree to the proposal. As for the organizations of the marriage, I've heard that the women wore a number each, and then they would be arranged to marry a soldier. However, some soldiers whom I knew told me that sometimes the soldiers themselves proposed particular women that they wanted to get married to their superior. But because of the mass marriage, the couples had to wear a number each for easier identification.
Now, when you indicate that requests for brides were made by the Army to your cooperative, who communicated that request to you?
Answer. Usually the military unit would put a request to the district, and the district would relay it to us. For example, the district would tell us that the military requested 30 women, and then I would seek the opinions from the female youths in my unit, and if they agreed, then they would be allowed to go to get married, and the representative of the military would come and fetch them from the base.
And you indicated that one of the instances in which this occurred was a request from Division 920, which was a center division. My question for you is, did these requests come from the sector military as well as divisions of the center?
Answer. Regarding this matter, I did not know well. I only knew that the request was relayed through the district level. As how they communicated at the upper level, it was beyond my knowledge.
I want to turn now to the period where you became the chief of Sambo commune. And you stated in your interview with the investigating judges that in January and February 1977 you underwent treatment in a hospital in Phnom Penh, and that when you returned to Kretchi in late February 1977 you were appointed the chief of Sambo commune. I want to follow up with a few questions about that. First of all, what was the hospital that you were treated at in Phnom Penh?
Answer. In January, I went to stay at the Kati hospital because of my breathing problem through my nose. I used to have my nose treated in 1966, but due to the difficult breathing, I went to stay at the Kati hospital. But then that hospital sent me to a hospital in Phnom Penh, at the Soviet hospital in Phnom Penh. I stayed in that hospital for almost more than 1 month, But because I was not treated by a doctor, for example, I supposed to be treated on a Tuesday with 3 other patients, but he never turned up. And about more than 1 month later, I asked one of the doctors. He examined me that I had a swollen nostril. So he gave me an injection, and then it became better since until now. So that because of my nose problem, I went to the Soviet hospital in Phnom Penh.
And when you returned from the Soviet hospital in Phnom Penh, what was the reason that you were assigned to Sambo commune instead of Watanek commune, where you had previously been the chief?
Answer. I actually was appointed before my admittance to the hospital. So after the appointment, I requested that I would go to be treated at hospital. At that time, Mr. Pan, who was the district committee, asked me to assist him in the Sambo commune due to the rather chaotic situation. And of course, I was appointed before I went to the hospital. That's all.
And when you say that there was a chaotic situation in Sambo commune, can you be more specific and tell us what was going on there?
Answer. The situation at that time was rather chaotic. Of course, there was no rebellion or any sort, but the committee, the commune committee, had been arrested. And later on, Mr. Sampon, who had a moral issue, also was arrested. So only Payne was by himself, and then he requested my assistance to work at the Sambo commune. That's all.
You indicated that one of the people had been arrested for a moral offense. Did you understand why the other members of the commune committee had been arrested?
Answer. Sampon was implicated in the moral offense. However, as for other commune committee like Krind, who was also arrested, but I did not know the reason for his arrest.
Now, you've just told us that the district chief who appointed you to Sambo commune was Pan. Was Pan the district chief during the entire time you served as the chief of Sambo commune?
Answer. Pan was the Sambo district chief. So when I initially went to the Sambo commune, he was the district chief, but a little bit after my arrival, he was transferred to be the Krojek district chief, and later on he was arrested.
And you made reference to this morning to the fact that when you came to Sambo commune, that there were a number of families of 17 April people who were located there. Did you receive any instructions on what to do with these 17 April people who were in Sambo commune?
Answer. Upon my arrival at the Sambo commune, I was instructed by the district to classify the people into 3 groups. One is the base people. They were members of the cooperatives, and the second group was also the base people. However, they would be in the sort of the well-off family who do not really satisfy much with the revolution, and they were called candidate-based people. As for the 17 April people, they were in the third groups. They were called the depositees. However, in the Sambo commune, I did not classify them as instructed, because I referred to them all as members of the cooperative. Because if I declared that they were classified into different groups, then those who were the bad people would look down on the depositees. So then there would be no agreement in the cooperative, and for that reason I did not declare the categories of the people at my commune. So they themselves were not aware of the classification of their group in the commune where I was the chief.
Were you instructed to obtain biographies from the 17 April people to determine if they had any connections to the Lon Nol regime?
Answer. Regarding the biography of the new people, they were not instructed to do at my commune. However, the old or base people who were suspicious were instructed to write their biography. For example, Mr. A had to write a biography, and in the biography he had to write about the parents, the siblings, and the children of the siblings and their professions. But not everybody had to write a biography. Only an individual who was suspicious would be called to make a biography. But for the 17 April people, there was no general principle of having them making a biography each.
And when you say that it was individuals who were suspicious who had to do biographies, what led to them being suspicious? Why were these people considered suspicious?
Answer. It means chiefly for the base people who had the background like the former chief of the commune or the former officials of the previous regime. So usually when we were instructed to get a biography of a particular individual, we would proceed to do so based on the instructions that we were given through.
And when you arrived in Sambo commune, did you learn what your predecessor had done when people who had associations with the former regime were discovered?
Answer. I did not grasp the situation before my arrival at the Sambo commune.
when you took over Sambo commune, did you become aware that there were people in your commune who did have connections to the former regime or who had been soldiers in the former regime?
Answer. When I arrived at the Sambo commune, I knew something about that. I knew the previous backgrounds of some people. For instance, Chi, he was the former commune chief, and Hom was the principal of the primary school since I knew him. And there were some of my former teachers there, and they are still living today. So I knew their backgrounds.
And did you help these people and make false reports that concealed the fact that they had connections to the prior regime?
Answer. As I stated this morning, as for Da Chi, the district gave instruction for him to go to a system, and he should bring along his own tools, including knives, and then he disappeared. And later on, the Hom, who was the former director of the primary school, it was reported to the district that during a meeting, he was asked about his opinion, and at that time, the Vuan, who was in charge of the military, knew about that, and then requested him to be sent. Upon hearing that, I really dissatisfied with that. And I told him that he could not walk properly unless he should be brought in a horse cart, and also said that he had his children working at the rubber plantation and elsewhere, and that he should not be brought to the district because he would not live longer due to his sickness. And he survived, and he had lived for three decades after, for another 30 years. So I assisted some of the people to survive. And another mother of a gentleman, I rescued her as well. She came to the office and asked why did she come, and she told me that she was called to come, and then I sent her off back home. And she survived, but she passed away a few years ago. So I actually assisted some of the people there, although I hate the authority, but I never arrested any person, anyone at all. I only did good things. The President, thank you, Mr. Witness, but please respond precisely to the question and short. And you seem to use the word which is inconsistent with the facts. In the closing order, you use the word provincial commerce. Probably you refer to the commerce in the sector, because during the DK regime, the word provincial was not used, only the word sector was used. So if it is for example, the sector's commerce, please refer to that specific wording so that it can distinct between the terms they use in that regime and in other periods of the time. Thank you. Also, as for the prosecutor, please try to be specific for the terminology used in the decay regime by complying with the terms used in the closing order. And that area was a sector, and it was later on known as the autonomous sector, not the provincial.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this point, I'd like to ask the witness about a brief excerpt from his prior interview, which is document E3/368, which was the first interview conducted originally in the case file as D125/184. And the excerpt I'd like to read from is on Khmer ERN 00340-154, English ERN 00345-195, and French ERN 00404-181. I have a copy of that statement for the witness, and request we also put it on the screen.
Yes, you can proceed. Court officer, could you deliver the document from the prosecutor for the witness to view it?
Mr. Witness, the section that I'd like to read to you and then ask a few follow-up questions is at the very end of this interview. And in the starting with the following, you were describing how you came to Sambo District and saw approximately 100 families of 17 April people who had been evacuated from Phnom Penh. And then there were the following two questions and answers that I would like to read. Quote, question, what were you instructed to do with the new people? Answer, we were instructed to make their biography in order to get hold of each individual's background. The people for whom I made their biography included Lon Nol soldiers, civil servants, intellectuals, and ordinary business people. Question, what were you instructed to do against these people after they had been identified through the biography? Answer, I knew that whenever my predecessor found out that a person was an ex-soldier, he ordered that the person be killed. When I became in charge, knowing that they would be killed, I made false reports to cover up their background and instructed those people to keep their biographies confidential amongst themselves for the sake of their personal safety. I also warned them not to report on one another. So my first question to you is, how was it that you had learned that former Lon Nol soldiers had been killed by your predecessor in Sambo Commune?
Answer, regarding the former Sambo Commune Committee who ordered people to make biographies and then they were arrested, I did not grasp hold of the situation well, but through what I was told, there were some killings. During the time, Sampon was the secretary of the Sambo Commune. That's all.
And when you told the co-investigators that you made false reports to cover up their background, what did you mean by that? What did you do exactly to help these people?
Response. When I lived in Sambo as the commune chief, there were ill reports on, for example, the implication concerning former Lone soldiers, their past, and so on and so forth. And I was trying to calm this down, and I stopped people from reporting on one another, because after all, everyone would end up being killed. It didn't do any good. And this phenomenon didn't happen again, and there was no more problem. Because when I was there at the beginning, people could approach me and reported on somebody else that they could, that person was for example, lieutenant, or rather the major during the Pol Pot regime. Rather the Lone regime, correct interpreter.
Do you remember the names of any of the people that you protected this way by helping to cover up or conceal their past connections to the Lon Nol regime?
Response. I do not remember those people because it was a very long time ago.
What would have happened to you, Mr. Yun Kim, if the upper echelon had discovered that you had made false reports covering up those people's connections to the Lon Nol regime?
The President, witness, please hold on. Counsel Angadam, you may proceed. Witness, please hold on, because counsel for Mr. Ingsari is on his feet. He may have something to say, and the chamber will have to hear him before we proceed to your response. Counsel, you may proceed. Counsel Angadam. Thank you, Mr. President. This question is of a hypothetical nature, because the question were if the upper echelon would find out about this. The President, the objection is sustained. The witness is now instructed not to respond to the question, and the co-prosecutor may rephrase the question.
Mr. Witness, as a person who was a commune chief, were you expected to follow the orders and instructions that were provided by the upper echelon?
Response. In principle, as the commune committee, I had to listen to the orders rendered from the upper echelon. However, I noted that if parts of the order was too harsh to be implemented, I would try to ease this burden, because the upper echelon was not the one who was close to the local community as I was, and I was able to know the real situation on the spot.
When you did things like that, did you fear for your safety and well-being?
Response. I think it was normal to me because normally when I worked anywhere I had to have meals there, and whatever criticism I received from the upper echelon, I would have to shoulder them because I knew that I had to do something against this as well. You know, if I were the leader of a commune, I had to really allow people to eat rice rather than porridge. And if they would like people to eat porridge under my supervision, then I would not be installed in the first place, or I would just be removed because I would not be the person who can implement such an order.
And just one more question on this subject so that I'm perfectly clear. When you indicated to the investigating judges that you made false reports to cover up the backgrounds of such people, is it correct that you did not, the false reports were reports that would have gone to the district chief? In other words, that you concealed from the district chief that there were people in the commune who had these connections to the former regime. Is that correct?
Response. Concerning this biographies were made before I took office at Sambo. When I was there, a few base people whose biographies were needed would be picked up to write or renew their biographies. And concerning the false report, this report had been done before as well, and we felt that the district committee kept disappearing, and without making false report, it wouldn't help. So I did not write to the upper echelon concerning the real biographies of these villagers.
Thank you. You stated in your interview that in late 1977, Sambo commune was divided into two cooperatives, Sambo and Srei Kun, and that at that time you became the chief of the Srei Kun cooperative from late 1977 until the 11th of June 1978. The first follow-up question on that is, what was the reason that Sambo commune was divided into two cooperatives in late 1977?
Response. Sambo was the biggest commune in Sambo district. There were 8 villages in that commune. So the 4 villages were divided into a Sambo cooperative, and another group is was for the Srei Kun cooperative. So in each cooperative there were 4 villages. It was only to facilitate our work and administration, because that's my observation, the reason why the commune was divided into 2 cooperatives.
How many people were you responsible for in Srei Kun cooperative?
Response. I guess there were about 3 people in Srai Khun cooperative. 3,000 people.
During the period that you were the chief of Srai Khun Cooperative, did you continue to report to the district secretary of Sambo District?
Response. As already stated, when it was a common commune, we would meet once a week, and the report regime was done directly without going through the written form.
And you have stated that you stopped being the Srai Khun Cooperative Chief on the 11th of June 1978, and at that time were appointed the chief of a youth group at the B3 worksite. I wanted to ask you, is there a reason that you remember the specific date of 11 June 1978?
Response. On the 11th of June 1978, I attended a meeting in which I was told to move from that cooperative to the work site where young people had already been gathered at the B3. The B3 was the former location to detain cadres. So all cadres of the whole district would be held in that B3 location. When the cadres were all removed, the youth were then placed in that location under the military supervision. The military was too harsh on them. They were removed, and I was called to take charge. It was on the 11th of June 1978. The military people were removed at lunchtime, and I had to take the office in the afternoon.
Who was it at this meeting that told you that you were to move to B3?
Response. Mr. Woon, the new secretary of the district, who from the military or from the army, was the one who ordered my transfer.
And when you say that the military had previously been in control of the B3 site, are you referring to the sector military, or was this a military division that came from outside Karachi?
Response. I'm not sure whether this person was from the sector army or from any other division or part, but I am sure that the person was a soldier, and he was the head of a company before.
And the new secretary of the district, Mr. Voon, do you know where he came from?
Response. No, I don't know his biography. Mr. Woon and Chuk came to be in charge of Sambo, but I just don't know where they could have been from.
I'd like to now turn to ask you a few questions about the subject of security or re-education offices in Karachi. Can you tell me whether each district in Karachi sector had its own re-education or security office?
Response. Concerning the security officers, I'm afraid I cannot understand what happened in other districts. However, in Sambo district, there were 2 security offices, one in Kok Duoj and Preh Sral. In Preh Sral location, the vicinity was for light offense people, and people who were detained there would be made to grow to do farming. And there was another security center, as I indicated, at Kok Duoj, but I don't know what kind of prisoners were held there, though I know that those prisoners would never be allowed to get out alive. Ong Samun was also purged or executed at Kok Duoj security office.
And who was Ung Samon, and when was he arrested and sent to Kok Duoj Security Center?
Response. Ong Samun was in charge of security in Sambo district. Before I moved in, he was the commune chief of Watanak. Later on, he was arrested, and I believe that he was arrested in late 1977 because he disappeared. In 1978, early 1978, when I went there to inspect the location for an irrigation or a canal, I spotted another person instead of him. So I believe that he could have been arrested by late 1977. And Chin was later on reinstalled to replace him. And there was another person, Jun, who later on became the commune chief of Watanak. In mid-1978, both of them also were arrested.
Did you hear why Ung Samon had been arrested and sent to Kok Duoj?
Response. I have no idea as to why he was arrested, but I believe that he was arrested because of his affiliation with another network. Because when the former secretary of the district, Mr. Chat, was arrested, Mr. Ong Samun was also later arrested because of this association. I don't know where he would be sent, whether to Kok Duoj or to other, rather, whether Mr. Chai was sent to elsewhere, but Ong Samun was indeed sent to Kokduch security office. Jun Chin was implicated and accused of being a traitor by a person, and he also was arrested and executed. Later on, the person who implicated him was found out to make a false statement. He also was arrested and executed.
We'll talk a little bit more later about some of the arrests and purges. Can you tell me where was the Kok Duok security office located?
Response. Kokduch is in Kain Prasad village, south of Sambo provincial downtown district. This location is 1 kilometer from the downtown of the district. So I can say that it is about 2 kilometers from the river bank to the Kokduch location.
And what about the Prosral site or prison? Where was that located?
Response. Prosral is the name of a stream. It's located about 5 kilometers from the downtown of Sambo district. To the west of the stream, there was a former security office, and on the other side of the stream, there was another village where people would also be sent there.
Do you know how many people typically were held at the Kok Duok security office and the Prosral work site or tempering site?
Response. I have never been to those locations, and I don't know how many people were held at Kokduch and how many people were detained at Prosral.
Do you know who the cadres were who were responsible for the operation of those security offices?
Response. Kokduch security office was under supervision of Ong Samun when he had to work as the chief of Watana commune. John was the head of the security office. Then later on, Mr. John was the head of Watana commune again, and I don't know who else would be in charge of Kokduch security office. Although I know a person who worked with me in my location was installed as the head of the security office, and a person by the name of Sarun was also stationed at Kokduch.
Do you know whether the sector level had its own re-education or security office?
Response. I'm afraid I don't know much about the security office of the sector, and I don't know where it could have been located.
Can you tell us when people were arrested in Karachi during the Democratic Kampuchea period, how are they usually arrested? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Response. I don't know about the arrest of the ordinary people, but when it comes to the arrest of cadres, a meeting would be convened. So if the persons were not allowed to leave the meeting after it's concluded, then it suggests that they would be arrested. And there was another villager who worked in the in my location, was asked by, or a person from the district were asked to take him or to arrest him.
And to clarify, when you said that for cadres a meeting would be convened, do you mean that they were called to the district office for a meeting and arrested there?
Response. Yes, it is correct. People who would be arrested would be called to the meeting.
And you've already told us this morning the incident involving Tachi, but I just want to confirm that in that case, am I correct that you were asked to give Tachi a letter that called him to go to the district office?
Response. Yes, it is correct.
And did you ever see Tachi again after he was called to the district office?
Response. No, I never saw him again.
I want to turn now to the period of late 1977 and early 1978. In your interview with the investigating judges, you identified a number of cadres who were arrested and disappeared during that period. And I want to go through and ask you some specifics about those incidents. And I'd like to start with the sector level, the people who were on the sector committee. Can you tell us what happened to the sector secretary Yi in early 1978?
Answer. The situation in Karachi province was chaotic in early 1978. G was the secretary of the sector, and in 1978, when the military came to make the arrest, they arrested many people, and maybe Yi was also arrested. But it was I heard that he was on a boat on the trip to Phnom Penh, and he was arrested along the way, and I could not grasp hold of the arrest of other people. However, as in Sambo, Phun and Ni were arrested at the district. That is all.
Now, when you say that the situation was chaotic in early 1978, what do you mean by that?
Answer. The chaotic situation in early 1978 was that the military controlled the area and arrested the former district and provincial committee. So some of those committee members fled and concealed themselves, and then it was rather quiet after the arrest. At my location, my deputy and the person in charge of the hospital had been arrested. Somehow I was not arrested, otherwise I would not be here today.
Were many people arrested during that time period?
Answer. Most of the people who were arrested were at the leadership level. Most of the district committee were arrested. The provincial committee, most of them were arrested. And some from the commune levels were arrested. In my commune, the physician, that is the head of the hospital, was arrested. I did not know the reason for the arrest of the hospital head. So after the situation quieted down, that some people from my commune also disappeared.
And when you say that the military came in and controlled the area and conducted these arrests, who are you referring to by the military? Was this a division from another region of the country that came in to Karachi?
Answer. At that time, the military wore a green uniform. I did not know which zone they came from, or I cannot recall. They used the word "nyum" to speak to the people. It's like the word the man used to speak to the lay, to the ordinary person. Even some soldiers were also arrested, and some of the soldier leaders at the province were also arrested at the time.
You identified for us earlier a person who was at the sector level named Kuhn, who was responsible for the military. What happened to him during this time period?
Answer. During the purge, Kuhn was arrested, as I heard. So he was also purged, and he disappeared since. As for Phun, who was the district soldier, he was also arrested.
I'll ask you about the district people in in a short moment. I want to now just focus on the people who are at the sector level. And another person who you had identified on the sector committee was Kang, who was the sector security chief. What happened to him during this time period?
Answer. Kong was in charge of the provincial security. Yes, I knew he had been arrested before Kun was arrested. So they subsequently disappeared, but he was arrested probably at the time that Jack was arrested around 1976.
To try to refresh and confirm your memory of the time period of these arrests, I can tell you that we have in the case file a S-21 confession from a Ban Sarun alias Kong, who was the Sector 505 security chief, that is from February of 1978. We have a S-21 prisoner list for Kun, the deputy secretary who is responsible for the military, that indicates that he entered S-21 on the 21st of March 1978. And we have a record indicating that Secretary Yi entered S-21 on the 15th of March 1978 and signed a confession in April of 1978. What I wanted to ask you is the dates that I've just mentioned, which range from February to March of 1978, is this consistent with your memory of the time period during which the sector leaders were arrested and disappeared?
Answer. Regarding this matter, and based on this document, I agree, because I was not clear, but I knew that it was in early 1978. So it is consistent with what you just read out.
Before we break, Mr. President, I'll just read for the record the case file document numbers for the S-21 records that I just referenced. For Kong, the sector security chief, there is a S-21 interrogation log dated the 2nd of February 1978, which is document D108/26.147, and an S-21 confession from him from the 23rd of February 1978, that is document D159/5.3. For the Deputy Secretary Kuhn, we have a S-21 prisoner list that indicates he entered on the 21st of March 1978, which is IS 16.71, and also an S-21 confession from him dated 4th of June 1978, which is document D366/7.1.116. And for the Sector Secretary Yi, we have an S-21 confession that is document D159/5.6, and also he appears on the OCP revised S-21 list, which is E3/342 at page 00329/602, and he is number 151 on that list. I can continue questioning, or if this is an appropriate time for the break, this is a good stopping point.
The President, the time is now appropriate for a break. We will take a 20-minute break and reconvene at 3 p.m. Court officer, could you assist the witness and the duty counsel during the break and have them back in the courtroom at 3 p.m.
សូមក្រងជើង